Tyler, as someone that's built multiple businesses in different industries, what is your guiding philosophy within what you look for?
True. Don't believe people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say everything's an opportunity. Like, I mean, when you look at building something or the situation you may be in, it may be different than I'm in. So, I may look to you for some sort of advice um, or something that, you have done in the past, but in reality, like, I'm building my own machine and so I want it to be the way I want it to be. So I never you look for advice, but I never take advice. Like it's my
Take all the data.
opportunity. Yeah, it's my opportunity. It's my way of doing things. Like I'll take risks that you won't take. I'll spend money you won't spend. You'll do things I won't do. Those
Right.
kinds of things. So I mean, when you're looking at different spaces or whatever you want to do, it's just be you and have it done your way, because ultimately, like, that's what's going to make you happy, and that's what success really
Makes
is.
you unique.
Yeah.
And makes you do what you want to do. And
Yeah.
as much as you see or might take advice from other people, you still don't know probably intellectual
Some words I can't say either,
Yeah.
James. I know what you mean. In the depths of our brains.
Yeah, right. That you may not follow that exact same path that they would, even though they're giving you the advice, you may not take it the same way that they're even explaining it.
I mean, I always hear, if you see somebody have success, then you copy it. But, I would say that's not easily done either, because they created that, or, they didn't copy certain things.
Right.
So, like, yes, you can copy aspects or products or certain things, but the mentalities and the cultures and the, way about and the drive, you can't copy.
So if anything, like 80-20 rule or even 50-50, it's got to be 50% you and 50% something else, or information you've gathered, or some sort of 80-20, or you have to have your own pillar of energy and effort to develop whatever you want to kind of go after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What industries have you been in? What kind of, some background on some different things that you've done, or things you've loved doing and things you haven't loved as much doing?
Forward and it's like Tyler was in multiple industries throughout life, like
yeah, right,
like a walking scene, like the going away, like on a documentary.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Like,
or some things you're
it
currently
started
into.
in, I guess, just started in school, like college, or deciding what you're going to do for the rest of your life and what that looks like and how you're going to get there. Really started school with no plan. Ended up with a free pizza sign, and ended up in an accounting club meeting as a freshman. I think the next semester I was president of the accounting club, and all of a sudden I was getting an accounting degree. So it's kind of where it started. But, CPA is always the path for that degree, or and then kind of looking at that path, like it really wasn't for me.
Just didn't excite you, didn't it?
It's fun. Like, I mean, that world did, as, like part of that accounting club, we'd visit firms and things like that, and you enjoyed the professionalism. You enjoyed, like the guys walking in and they're looking tired and they're like, I worked 80 hours last tax season, like every week, last tax season. I haven't seen the sun in 75 days, but then your summers are wonderful and, everything else, like, and you're just helping people. It's a nature of helping somebody. But I think, got hired by a client, kind of lost that path, and then dabbled in a few other things. So, I've seen every aspect of business through the CPA firm, which was great for me. Like, it was a great starting point. Like, what do financials look like? Like, what does success look like? What does planning look like? What does hodgepodgeness, look like?
What works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do, right?
And so, coming from there, and then, I've always had a hankering for a troubled source. So getting hired by a troubled client and kind of working through all of their issues, and then, having that not be a success for myself, you know, because they took a different path, and so then having to climb back up that ladder and get back to where you were. So, you know, I see all aspects of the business through the CPA world. You know, I've done, like, the client that hired me, like, we ran 5 gas stations and a Subway. Like,
Yeah.
go figure. And I started helping him with a tax issue, you know?
Right.
So, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get hired as, you know, kind of his top executive person because, you know, you're now his trusted individual.
You have all the data.
Yeah. So, and then, like I said, like, I ended up from there into the tractor industry, like John Deere's and lawnmowers and all sorts of other things. Dabbled in the FBI hiring process for a little while, like shoot, everything and anything really, you know. Home buying, like, you know, we was in that industry for a little while, flips and rentals, and that's kind of what really just put me on that path of, like, I can consult, you know, and that's where it really ended up, is like into the consulting world. I just seen so many different things that it just, I'm not one to close my mouth. Like, I'm not one to, you know, if I see it better, I'll say it better, or if I don't understand the why, I'll ask the why. And,
Sure.
And most people sit back and, you know, they like their chair at the table, and I'm like, I want to be at that chair.
Yeah, like, I need to know that information.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, I can't sleep tonight unless I figure it out.
And it's like, you know, like, I mean, this is just a job. Like, I want more than just a job. So, you know, that the consulting world and helping people, obviously, you know, playing off of financials and books and experience and all aspects of business that you've seen, like, you know, makes it pretty easy to enter somebody's world as a trusted advisor or a consultant. So, you know, doing that, and then, you know, then just being on a path of my own and setting that up, and to where that's led me, you know, and where we've ended up now to being a multiple business owner, you know, doing some nationally recognized, like, conservation work and things like that. Like, so, yeah, it's pretty much where we're at.
Yeah, that's kind of how you've gotten to where you're sitting right now.
But now,
or
you
whatever.
know, like, you know, doing not really the easy things, but the stuff that, you know, has got you to that chair, and now it's your own chair, and now every day is, you know, what you want to do, or
Sure.
what goal do you want to accomplish, instead of whose task am I doing. So
You've had to learn all that along the way to then position yourself to be in that chair, to be able to make those decisions, make those calls, and feel that you're making the right decisions.
At the
right
time
calls.
when you get fired for a job, or, you know,
Yeah.
and it's completely devastating, and you never know how that's going to play out in your life, like, or where that leads you, and you just, you know, you can sit in that sorrow, or look back and be like, shoot, I haven't kept a job in 4 years.
What's going on here, right?
I think it's me. I think it's
it was them.
yeah.
Now maybe it isn't.
Maybe,
them.
yeah. And you realize it was all them the whole time. No, yeah. Just learning, you know, and growing and seeing those experiences. And like I said, now you make your own chair. You make your own experiences, and, you know, you accomplish the things you want to accomplish, and where you want to be. So I guess that's the industry I'm in now, is you know, just self-accomplishment.
Yeah. So what are you currently working on? What are you currently into? Which I know there's a few things at that, right? But kind of
never settle, James. Never
right?
settle.
Just
Don't settle. Crap, dude.
I'm sure you're bored all the time.
All the time, just completely bored. Actually, I sometimes have so much to do that, you know, I resonate with the ads that say, "Are you constantly just scrolling on your phone?" And I'm like, yeah, because I'm avoiding everything in life that has to happen right now. You know, so, I mean, plain and simple, currently, like, I'm with a group that we do investment and tax mitigation and historical conservation. We're doing some things with some destination charter stuff, with some boats and some airplanes, and just that world alone has like 6 different pieces to it, and moving parts. the other piece is, you know, obviously we have our solar installation business. That's how you and I met.
Right. Yeah.
And building that and just maintaining and doing that, trying to put the right pieces in place so that it becomes a more self-sustaining long-term thing. You know?
Building a business to run like a business, right?
Yep. Pleasure-wise, like, we're starting a golf simulator franchise. So in the middle of construction of that.
Hugely addicted to golf and
hugely, and it's led into an opportunity, like, kind of a place in my mind that I've always envisioned, but when it happened, and didn't really mean to take it on, but now we're taking it on. So
all the puzzle pieces kind of line up, and you said, well.
Yeah, I would say that's a little bit easier one, just, requires funds and things like that right now to be thrown at it. But I think once it's up and running, it's self-sustainable and makes for a good pattern later on in life, like, a more flexible piece, you would say.
But what I think is interesting is one business is interesting in a lot of data, a lot of information, working with other potentially business owners or people within the tax side of things. The solar is employee-based, service-based, a lot of moving people and pieces. And then like the golf, you're almost trying to go against some of those other things and make it like almost run without employees kind of a thing, or as minimal as possible.
As minimal as possible.
You're not trying to like follow the same path with each pillar that you play in. They're actually very different than each other. Although money-wise or financially or how they play probably is similar in ways that you want to go about doing things, but yet actually carrying it out is very different.
Yeah. I would say money-wise, like 2 or 3 are same. Like the consulting world is what it is. People look to you for that advice. They pay for that advice, and it really is just an exchange of information in some sort of investment product. But, sometimes it is only just the information.
Right.
Like they're already doing what they're doing, and you're providing them or you're putting the pieces together for them. But, just exchanging that. The other two, just building a general business that's meant to be around for, 25, 30 years as a community type thing. That's kind of similar. It requires your time. It requires your knowledge and everything that you learn, but then you're relying upon other people to give you that information.
Right.
And I would say money-wise, the golf sim and the solar business are pretty much the same,
within the model that you're trying to build.
Yeah, just like, you're putting yourself into it, whether it be the funds that you have or your time.
Sure.
When you give your time, obviously you're giving up your time to invest to make more money somewhere else. So it can be a form of currency as well. So those two, you're giving of yourself, but then one in nature, time, like eventually should be, 0 or minimal.
Minimal, then, right? Because you only have so many hours in a day.
Yeah, and you do what makes you happy. Like, I always say I hate when people ask me what I do because I nerd out and then they don't. Don't look like I nerd out, but I nerd out and I like it, and I like to explain certain things, and that's just that financial background or whatever, and you lose yourself in it, and then we move into the other stuff, and it's like, one's a byproduct of doing all of that, and then but providing a service, and then the other is just like a passion that you followed. Like you want to be in that industry. Like everybody right now wants to be in the golf industry. Like how do you get in? It's
cool. It's trendy.
Are you a cool YouTuber? Like are you like where do you fit in? Like as a player or as an influencer.
Or the guy doing jokes on the side or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Are you an opportunist? Like, are you going to take advantage of something that's happening in a very traditional world right now? What's interesting about the golf world is it's transitioning. Like, indoor golf is becoming a thing.
Super interesting.
Yeah, and it, traditionally, those who train, you train at the golf course, or you train.
You just go play more, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's not a whole lot of places to hit, like hitting nets, or or even lessons aren't popular. Like, I don't know why, but
Yeah, it's kind of like you just played more, and then you just keep getting better, or whatever.
Or you stay the same. Like,
or
you continue to do what's wrong, and you refuse to be told like how to do something different. And so now the world of indoor golf provides, not just a place to play like in the winter. And I told you that yesterday as we looked at my construction, and I was like, I don't want this to be some place that people would look at and it's like, it gives me somewhere to go in the winter. I want them to view indoor golf as a place to train, to get the data, to see the face of your club hit a ball, and know that, that technology is very expensive, but you now have it,
access to it. Yeah. And providing that to people, right? And I think, like you said, with all the ways that golf is changing, with them bringing even professionals into these like stadiums and creating these like simulators and the data, and they're working on that, how realistic it's getting and how much faster that'll speed somebody's learning up if they want to, right?
Yeah,
like
if you want to, like, I mean, or if you're willing to change, or it's a fun aspect too. It's something that you can, like I told you, like, hot thing right now is to post a video how quick it takes you to play 18 holes, like, and that's an hour. So
which is pretty crazy.
Where time is such a big constraint, and golf takes so much time, and if you're out playing, you're dependent upon other people and their time and their decision making.
Hurry up, let's go.
Hit a ball
or you're the
into
guy
him.
getting you're the guy getting yelled at because you're over there. Hold on, one more try.
Never that guy. I'm always the guy waiting, because everything's like snap, like so, like, to take an hour and get as many swings in and maybe realize a few things, like, it helps not to move to the next spot. Like, you're staying in the same spot, hitting the same ball, but you're you're not worried about, did I see where it went? Now I can concentrate on how did I hit that, or where did I hit that, or what was my swing like. So I think that's the future of where things are going, and to now be a part of that, or to have that opportunity to be a part is fun as much as it is like a business idea.
Yeah, you see like an opportunity because there's energy behind, like, golf has always had energy, but you're seeing an increase in energy behind it with what's going on in golf overall. Yeah. So like, these things have kind of been around, it's happened, but there's actually more going on with it now. So maybe it's a good time to deep dive into it even further.
Yeah. No, and like I said, like, some of that stuff isn't cheap. Obviously, there's some things you can get set up with some data points and things like that for less than $1,000 or whatever, but then you might be space constrained, or
I've even seen things like on the floor, it just like you swing and then it like knocks it over, and you can kind of tell where you're,
like the sequence shirt. It's like dog, pillow, dog, pillow.
Good swing, not good swing. Like,
don't turn it this way.
Exactly. But like that simple, right? Like, but then like you said, you're going to kind of more that elite level of the data that, even if you're on a golf course, you're not going to get that. Like,
no. You'll never, you're either worried about where your ball went, or, it was a bad shot, but now you got to bail out of the trees, or, something.
Climb a hill, or.
Yeah, exactly. And now it becomes a physical exertion to do what you do, or so. I'm excited for it. Like, you kind of see it happening. It's a hot thing right now. And I think Topgolf brought on the entertainment aspects of driving ranges and made those popular, and the datas you get there, and the foods and stuff, and then to evolve into maybe strictly training, or just that alone time, or golfing with your friends, or an event space really too. Like, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah. To
watch it like do what it's gonna do.
Are you always kind of looking for something new?
No.
Not meaningfully.
Not meaning. Like, yes. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm never one to keep my mouth closed, and I'm always like, don't ask. And it's like, what do you do for a living?
It's like, hold on. How much time you got? Yeah.
It's just the nature of talking to people, or seeing certain things. Like, do I want to get into another business? Probably not. But, when you enter business into yourself, like, and like
Right.
you have clients and you market to them. And when it's just you, like you just have always made a habit of that socialization that turns into, a more investigative conversation.
Oh, that is cool. Or what's going on there? Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I've always been one to ask the question or ask the why, and it's like, oh, now here we are, and this elevator conversation just got awkward because I asked you what your gross income is. Sorry, it's my job. So,
my base conversation starts where it gets awkward.
Yeah. It escalates really quickly. Yeah. So,
but then you understand, like, is that something I even want to deal with or not deal with, or so it takes how many people to make how much money, or what's going on there to decide, like, is it worth exploring or not exploring?
Yeah. It's and sometimes there is no opportunity.
Yeah, you're like, hey, good for you if it make it work, but that my brain don't work that way. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Sorry, I asked, right? Yeah.
Like or you're always that person too that's like, oh, I can help you, and then you're just like, crap, why did I say that? Because it ends up being a more voluminous project than you initially wanted to take on, or so you've learned to ask the qualifying questions, and like I said, when you're still consulting or still understanding or still being an advisor to people while you're building your own kind of thing, like
helps you from being stagnant.
Looking, you're always hunting. Like if you're not always like, I don't know what you're doing. Like I always tell my kids, like, I don't think I know how to, like, if retirement comes, what does that look like? I mean,
what's my retirement business or plan? Because it's not going to just be hanging out. Yeah.
Hopefully it's on a golf course.
Probably a lot of golf.
Yeah. Advising some young kids that make a lot of money that are golfing out there, like the next step, and, what not to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How much you make? Okay, this is how you make a little bit more, and now let's play some golf. Cool.
Yeah, hey. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, kind of like from that mentorship aspect at some point. Like you're doing it, but then at some level you're like, I'll help, but I don't really want to be in it, but maybe. So
it's like a mechanic. Like, I mean, you've always fixed cars. You're never going to stop fixing cars. So like if you traditionally worked at a mechanic shop and then you retire, like you're going to find some way to fix a car. Like
go build something or work on it or whatever. Right?
Whether it pays or not, like that's the passion, that's the art. That's the like where your brain lies, I guess. Yeah.
So let's nerd out for just a minute on the tax side of things, and from
my eyes roll back in my head, and I start to look to the right, like just
stop, right?
Bring me back.
hey, over here, right? Yeah. But no, I mean, so we've had a conversation. I've learned a little bit about kind of the tax things that you do and the group that you kind of work with, and I think it's super interesting. I think not hardly anybody knows about how this works or what goes on, and I mean, you've explained it to me, and I still barely kind of understand it, but I get it in a way. But I think it's an interesting thing for people to understand that just paying what you got to pay in taxes or just chasing what they tell you got to do is not maybe the answer, right? That you always hack at it, always try to find the gray area, always work around it and see if you can make your situation better depending on what you're doing, right? So what kind of even got you looking into that, or why have you found the group that you're with, and what do you guys kind of do?
I think it started was contract CFO, like working for numerous businesses. Got introduced to a guy doing some employee tax credit stuff, and introduced him to some of my clients, and then it kind of got deeper from there. And that was about the history of what we do has traditionally always been used. Like it's not a loophole. It's not a I don't want to say it's not a gray area, because tax law provides.
I mean, it's there,
a lot of
right?
Like, it's there. It's in the tax
really
code.
Tax in general.
Yeah, it's in the tax code, and tax codes change and they evolve. And they're meant. Some tax codes are meant to stimulate the economy when it's slow. Like like we're going to accelerate the way you write off equipment. If you go buy equipment this year, like you can write it all off instead of like writing it off throughout time, or
over 5 years or whatever.
Or 5 or 6 years. So like they use the tax law to be able to do some of that stuff. So and that's how the U.S. pays for stuff too. Like, I mean, they trade.
Right.
and they trade, with taxes and
Making deals and
yeah. If you're gonna do this with your money, then we're gonna give you a break here because it's better for the community or better for the Americas, United States if people are investing a certain way. So when you look at like what we do, traditionally it's always been used. Like it's the nerdy part of this, it was created in the 80s. Like, Reagan stepped across the aisle, shook hands, and was like, hey, we can't buy every piece of land, and we see a high rate of development. How do we begin to conserve? And so it's like, well, let's offer a tax break if people will not develop their land. And they made it, kind of worth the while because nobody's going to do anything unless it's an even exchange. So you get a tax deduction if you're not developing the land. But it's not just at the cost of the land; it's at what you could have put on that land.
Yeah. So instead of putting a apartment complex on it,
right,
but you can value it the same.
Conserve it. I always use the example. Don't know it. I should always look it up. I always say this, but Central Park. Okay.
Right.
It's green space in the midst of the city. If you looked at Central Park in New York and you said, "Look around us. Like look at everything that can be built." If that was what we do, a conservation easement, okay, then we would get a deduction for all of the things that we could put on it, like the highest and best use value of a development. The IRS would say, okay, like, even though you bought this land for $5 million, like if you're willing to not do anything with it forever, like, and make $0, then we're going to give you a $80 million deduction because you could have put this
skyscrapers or businesses on it or whatever.
Yeah, like and what you could have built and what you could have sold, what you could have built for, and you can justify that. That's what your deduction is.
I'm not putting a $1 billion skyscraper in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, but like if it was Central Park, it'd be a totally different.
Like it's meant for highly developing areas.
Yeah,
that's where we get like parks or hiking easements or the free space that people tend to enjoy. Like something's happened with that land. Like that land just didn't get bought by the city, and they're like, nope, we're not going to do anything with it. Like nope.
We think it would just be nice to leave it alone.
It's part of a larger tax play. Like traditionally, obviously, it's been used by very wealthy individuals, and it was a 30% adjusted gross income. So that means you get a total all of your income, and then when you look at donating, that's a charity, right? And so you can go up to 30% of what all of your income was by not developing your land. 2015-16 is kind of when I got into it. They used it to stimulate the economy and made it a 50% deduction. So it got even more popular. Oh yeah, it got way more popular, and pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. That's just always been the mentality. Thankfully, I've always worked with people that pigs get fat, like and doing things the right way. So, we create a fund. We look at land and we look at highly developing areas, what we could have put on it. Is that can it be appraised that way, or can we justify it through surrounding development? Like I said, think of the Central Park.
You're right.
And we're going to raise $20 million, and we're going to give these guys that give us this $20 million, we're going to give them an $80 million deduction. And so for them, now it becomes a percentage play. Okay, so I'm going to deduct if it was me, let's just play with $100,000.
Sure.
And say I'm going to give you $100,000, but you're going to return to me $400,000 worth of a tax deduction. Okay.
Sure.
And that's 50% of my income. I make $800,000. I'm going to deduct $400,000 of that.
You got to like burn 100, but I'm going to get 400 off, right?
But that 400 in taxes, if I didn't deduct it, would have costed me 37% federally,
sure,
10% state. Let's just, and so now I'm almost in a 50% kind of bracket with that money. So if I've exchanged something that I should have paid $200,000 on, and I've given you 100, I no longer have to pay the 200 because I deducted it.
Right.
And so now my benefit to me by helping you conserve this piece of land is $100,000. So I've saved $100,000 this year, and it's a great purpose, like conservation first, obviously, And now we've saved this piece of land. I've avoided paying $200,000 in taxes, but it did cost me $100,000 in an investment. So be it.
But I was going to pay out that money anyway,
exactly.
plus some.
Yep.
So it's kind of like when people are like, oh, a write-off. So you look at stuff you can write off at 50%, 100%. This is actually where you get a multiplier on the write-off.
Exactly. So, when people, and it's good for all types of income. You and I are business owners. Like, we look at write-offs differently than somebody than your employees sitting out there. They don't have the ability to write things off because they have a W-2.
Right.
Like, you're providing for their needs. Those are your write-offs as a business. Like, their wages are your write-off. Like, their taxes are already being taxed, like, at a certain level. So, like, they don't have the ability to be like, well, it cost me this much money to get to work.
Right.
Nope. It's kind of a have to, that's a given. But you get to write that off because, like, if you didn't go to work, you would make zero money or whatever.
And then you couldn't pay the people, and then,
just the way you're paid. So high individuals that make those types of wages, like they're paid through a hospital or a law firm, or some guys are entrepreneurs, and even their C-suite salaries are
hundreds of thousands.
And so they don't have the ability to say, I'm going to write this off.
Right.
And so this gives somebody that ability to donate in a different way.
So even those people that are in C-suite can then donate.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Like, it works for W-2 wages. It works for business income. It works for all of the things. And so, like, let's say you make $1 million as a doctor, like, but the hospital pays you that, and you're not a contractor, so you don't get to write anything off, just that W-2 wage. Like, $1 million would be taxed at, at your highest percentages, at 37% level and 10% state. So what does that guy got to do,
Yeah, where can he benefit from trying to do something else?
So typically it's through a charity, and just like any other 501c3, like, you give money to your church, give money to United Way, American Heart, like all that stuff. Every dollar you give them, like, you get a write-off.
Right.
As an itemized deduction. Well, this multiplies that dollar.
And then
when you're looking at something, even a business owner, it's like, well, shoot, I can go buy a piece of equipment that I don't need, and it's going to cost me $100,000, but I only get $100,000 benefit, because I'm going to write off that whole piece of equipment. Or I can give you $100,000 and I can write off $400. Like, which one would you rather do? And there's a certain point in business where you just can't write off anymore, and nobody wants to bring your income down to zero, because there's a whole nother. This is the nerdy part. You got to leverage your tax return at some point. Like, if you've ever bought a house, or you ever gotten to do something, even as a business owner, like, if you're not a business owner, they require your W-2s and what you're making right now. If you are a business owner, it's like 3 years worth of taxes. Well, most business owners are avoiding tax by zeroing out their income. So guess what their taxes look like? You make no money.
Right.
And so now but you're like, I make money, I just write it off. And it's like, but you make no money because that's what you're reporting. Yeah. So it allows people to keep their leverageable tax returns higher.
I see, yeah, because then on the multiplier you can keep that buffer in there, and then
multiplier
that
has
still shows,
nothing to do because it's below the line.
Yeah.
So if a bank's going to look at your tax return, they're going to look at all the totals of your incomes. Like, cool, they'll go to AGI. They don't care what you donated to charity.
Yeah.
They don't care that that's a deduction.
It's like after the fact.
It's an after the fact. So, like, even though they don't look at your taxable income, they look at what your gross income, your adjusted gross incomes are. So, I mean, people who invest in this stuff, like, I've been doing it 10 years. Like, they're really good people. They do other things with their money. And you think of that scenario, a typical client makes $1 million. They're donating about 125 grand, avoiding about 120 or 250 to, $200,000 in taxes. So you're putting $125,000 into somebody's hands that knows what to do with their money.
Sure.
So, that's 5 years, look at that savings. You put $500,000 back into somebody's pocket. And when that's multiplied by 50, 60 people through each investment every year, like, that's a significant amount of return. If I'm giving you an $80 million deduction, we're raising 20, technically our whole group is mitigating $40 million almost worth of taxes because those are the people that are investing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so we put $20 million back into your local economies or where these people live and back into America, basically. And that's what stimulates the economy. Like we've put money back into people's hands. And I know people complain, oh, like tax breaks are for the rich and blah, 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 blah. Like I guarantee, like, we'll put your taxes to their taxes, and where the unfairness lies is at that top part. Like, yes, they do make a lot of money, but when your percentages are escalators, you know, like we don't pay the same tax. Like, you know, if I worked at, you know, just a low W-2 job and you're a doctor, like we don't pay the same tax. On our first dollar we do. Yeah. And every dollar up until
you run out and
until I run out of dollars and you keep going.
Yeah.
Now those percentages change, and they change from what I paid at 15%. Your next dollar could be taxed at 32. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, and I think that's where, as you start to do more, you got to figure out more ways to handle it.
Yeah. But like, is that fair? Like, do you require more than me? Like, as a wealthier individual? Like, I mean, or did you just pick the right profession?
Yeah, like did you work harder? Did you not?
You and I as individuals, we drive the same roads, we drive the same cars, we drive, the same, and our wear and tear on America is basically the same. Maybe our family sizes are the same. Like,
what's the difference?
Why am I paying
other than
more?
Just the dollar?
Yeah, like, and it's not the fact that I'm paying more. It's just on the next dollar I'm paying more. If I made the next dollar, then yes, I would be taxed a little, more. And so there's tax breaks down here and there's tax breaks up here. Like, and it all works out.
You just got to get a little bit more creative as you go because you're trying to cover a difference in percentage.
Well, and you're talking, what do we have? Like, I don't know when America first started, but how many years of tax code, and when you look at one act that has to be passed and how that gets passed and things that slip in and things that slip out and the way things change, like, they just need to scrap the whole book and say, let's start over.
Let's try again.
Yeah, like the zero mentality. Like, put that to an American vote or something, but it's just so voluminous. Like, it's hard even for them to know how things are being done, you know, unless there's abuse. So, But, I mean, that's the nerdy part of what I do. Like that, and so talking to people about their incomes and for the most part, it's a pretty standard conversation. Some things are unique about it, individuals, but what's unique is people you meet, conversations you've had. You're talking like every year, we're raising 10, 15, $20 million, and I've met 5 of these people, well, let's just say less than 10 in person.
Yeah.
But every year they call you. And so...
Because it's pretty much a yearly cycle,
right? Is that my personality? Is that, the way I make them feel? That's obviously the benefit I've given them. But
they got to trust you pretty heavily to go into doing what you're doing.
That's a huge amount of trust. Yeah. And to put out a good product and then be subject to the unknown. Not ours is a terrible organization, but it's, there's an unknown. Like, how did they interpret it versus how we interpreted it? Right. Is there a lesser meeting ground? So, but, and like you said, I would say meeting less than 10 of these people live, but then having the ability to call them and have a regular conversation about other things. They call me for other things like real estate or, when they start to look at selling a business or, you just kind of become a person because it's not like they go talk to their friends about their income, their income situation, and you become a confidant. And that's the cool part of it. Like, and you get to see what everybody does, and it does open your eyes to how people make money and things. Like, have an overwhelming amount of people right now who are in the digital age of things, like making money through marketing tools or marketing products and being very good at that. It's not so physical anymore, and it's cool to see that progression.
Yeah, technology.
Tons of doctors, tons of other things too, and how they look at their money and where they look at things. And for the most part, I always tell them, like, you're a doctor. Like, you shouldn't be a tax professional. And so for you to be involved in so many tax strategies, like, I know where my brain is. Like I said, like
Yeah.
most of the time you're scrolling on your phone, avoiding stuff, but that's not good for the guy that's supposed to be saving your
Right.
life. So the more you can keep him focused on his profession and the things that you have to do, like that helps them, you know,
Yeah.
and it's of significance, and it keeps that strategy for them at a minimal level.
Yeah, they understand it enough
Yeah.
to where, but then like you're there to kind of carry it out, and
Yeah.
you're also doing a lot of background work to then kind of present and put the deal in front of them. It's not like you just go. There's not just a million of these opportunities out there in the world,
No.
right? Like you have to go do a lot of work to then position it all to happen.
And it's amazing the consistency of income that they have, which you applaud, because that's a lifetime of, you know, making money. Like, money just doesn't come, like, you know, and so you see that. You see, like I said, there's an eye-opening part of it of when have you ever been paid in stock?
No.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But
I've heard and seen some stuff on that. Yeah.
when people are,
Like,
you know,
I
they'll
got a
take
bonus, it
a
has this much stock.
$100,000 raise, and then we're going to pay you in stock until we go public. And then once that company goes public, now that stock's worth
Whatever,
insurmountable
right?
amounts of money.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then all of a sudden, like, you're getting paid out or selling
see,
or
yeah.
creating more taxable events than you could ever imagine. Like, that part's cool, you know.
Yeah.
And to see people have success like
They're
that,
just doing
like,
their thing, but then it hits right,
oh
and
yeah,
you're like,
like
holy
they've
cow.
spent 10 years of their life, their last 10 years, like making $0, giving, you know, heart and soul to this company, and then all of a sudden they have a big buyer come in, and now they're looking at a $25 million windfall or a $7 million. And you talk to whole groups of guys like this in the same company, and it's amazing how the chips fall and where they fall. You know, even the guy that was
like
giving
it falls down pretty, yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, just the waterfall of income. Yeah, this guy made this much, but we really changed this guy's life because he's now a millionaire. You know,
Yeah,
this guy was already there.
He exponentially.
He just has that. Yeah, so that part's cool. Just to see
This
all
guy
the
really
different
can't buy a
stuff.
bigger house, but that guy can like.
I can, or now he's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
thinking
but-
of like, what is the best use of my money? Is
Right.
it long-term rentals? Is it,
What else
you
do
know,
I want to
saving,
do?
or is it just tax breaks and going? I always say, if I win the lottery, I have the perfect strategy. Like, I know where I'm going with this stuff. Like, taking the one-time payout and paying the tax, but I'm paying half of what everybody else pays. Creating my own fund.
I'm doing it myself.
And doing it myself. I'm taking all 80 million myself.
I need my own piece of land to
Exactly.
conserve. And then we're good.
Yeah.
But but like,
tell me
how
that
many
wouldn't be
people are
audited.
in that situation that like hit the lottery and they didn't, or they don't even understand that, because
Probably don't
they've
even
totally
understand.
changed. Don't even know that
Probably
that's
don't
even
even
a
understand. I would
potentially
say-
possible thing to happen.
I would say we're a very unique select group that still invokes a strategy, because when it first came out, obviously everybody did it, and then you get the hogs being slaughtered. So the people that abused it, and now it's tainted, and now it's like, you know, kind of watched over a little bit more heavily and stuff like that. So to remain in the business this long and go through the many changes of tax law and code and things right now that is happening with this is pretty cool. But I would say we're a very select group that's still doing this, that
You've seen a lot come
because
and
people
go, and
like, risk is a huge factor. Like, it is a huge factor. Like, it's
Yeah.
something the IRS pays attention to. Like, something when you exempt $40 million from the U.S. government somehow in one deal,
you know, they perk up a little bit.
they're definitely going to pay attention to how you did that and what the basis of all that was. And doing it the right way is very important.
Pretty much plan to be
That's the
audited
fact.
on everything you do. Yeah.
100%. Yep.
So just make sure you're doing it right, huh?
Yeah. And it's not you that's being audited. It's really the company you're investing in, you know,
Yeah.
which is our group and the deal that we created. And providing that product to people who trust you at that level is quite the responsibility. And you know, kudos to the people that I work with, because they obviously helped do it right and have made it what it is now. But like I said, there's lots of people out there that make lots of money that
have
have
no
zero
idea.
clue.
They're just
Zero
paying.
clue. Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll take it. Yep.
Do you think within what you've been doing mentally, like, the 4-minute mile, once somebody ran it, then everybody could do it or whatever, like once you see how much people can make or they're able to make or they're doing in different ways, that opens up your mindset to be like, yeah, I can
100%.
I can do more. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much more out
like,
there.
Take
It's
the risk.
unbelievable.
Like, I mean, there's so much more out there and you never know where it leads. And that's what and you asked me at first, like, what's your main strategy or whatever? And it's just like, like you wouldn't take the same risk I would.
Right.
You wouldn't borrow money at 25% interest, of which I've done.
Sounds crazy, but
Sounds crazy, but opportunity exists,
Right.
like most people won't even buy a car at 8%, like, but how do you get to work?
Right.
Either that, like,
no, I mean, it's a good point, right? Like, if you got to do it, you
have to do it.
You
like,
need to understand numbers, so it's
Right.
not a negative number at the end of it, but as long as it's positive. But
yeah, but what can you do with it? Like, if you didn't have that, like,
what else are you gonna do?
or let's say if you didn't have the confidence of reliability, let's just take a car for example. Like, everybody looks at a car and they're like, I'm not buying a car right now. It's 8% interest, and I'm like, but there's a few things that a good vehicle gives you: reliable transportation, obviously technology, obviously length of reliability. So,
Right.
If you took that same money that you were paying for this car and invested it into your heap of junk or something that you're looking to replace, can you get these exterior factors? Do you still trust your car? Do you, do you trust the length of it, or you just realize in the back of your head it's always something you're going to replace? So
Right.
that 8% really worth that. Now take the internal things, like how does a new car make you feel, James?
Right. Yeah. Do you love
Like,
it? Do you?
$1 million, right?
Every
Like,
day you get in it, are you
confident.
happy?
I mean, if you're gonna spend a lot of time commuting and that's your place, like, why not do it the right way? Or reset your brain. Like, dude, I see people driving on the freeway and they're wearing headphones, and I'm like, your stereo don't work, like,
Right. Bumpers
like,
falling off.
like, it's like, nothing against that or whatever,
gotta do what you
but
gotta do,
it's
yeah.
just, not everybody has the chance to do that, but it's just like, dang, man, like, that's hard. And when you get into something new or something that you've envisioned, like, even though it may not be fully yours yet, you're paying for it, obviously.
Yeah.
Just that confidence, and now how does that play out for you at work?
Yeah. What's it mean to you, right?
You're a
Like,
happier person when you get to work. Like, you do the job better. Like, you get there faster. Like, you're not so depressed because your oil's leaking and things like that.
Yeah, it broke down on the way or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or vice versa. Like, the car's good enough and you don't care about it, but you got a little Gucci bag and you're stoked because that
Yeah.
makes you happy, right?
Like,
So
what's that thing that makes you happy, and are you willing to expense for that? Like, are you willing to take that risk or go after it?
And does it put you
most
in a
people
better
aren't.
place
Just like
in
you said,
life?
most people just
Yeah.
take it on the chin. This is what life gave me. This is what this is the way I'm going to end up, and this is where I'm going to be. And legit, I had friends that have been like, I don't want to be a manager, and it's like, don't get me wrong, like, why not? Like, or
why
like,
though?
that's
And
the
that's
decision.
okay. But
And maybe you don't want that responsibility, but maybe that responsibility is not so great if you make the right decisions, or you're involved in those decisions. Maybe
Right.
you see it differently, but that's just that mentality. So heck yeah, it opens your eyes when you see people and you deal with people that have insurmountable funds, or they're well taken care of because of their life choices and the things they did. Like, you're like, yep,
I got to position myself in
yeah,
similar
I want
ways.
and it's not that you want what they have or whatever, because I would say the things that I want are totally different than
Absolutely.
what somebody else does, but you want that possibility,
That
to do
ecosystem built
Mhm.
around you to be able to do that.
Yep.
Talking about opportunity costs, how do you balance risk versus reward financially or even in business senses? And like, kind of what's your process look like in your head as you go through that to decide if you're going to do something or not?
If I want to do it.
Just depends on how passionate you are about the.
Usually people think it just, think you're off the cuff or something like that, but they don't realize like your brain's always moving and you're always, planning and thinking. So by the time something comes out of my mouth, like, it's somewhat thought out to, the direction or where it's going. Do you know
Right.
everything that's going to happen? And I think that's a risk sometimes I'm willing to take that not a whole lot of people are is well, what happens next? I don't know.
I kind of want to find out though. So,
right? Like, okay, like, let's create a service team or, let's do
Yeah.
this. Well, what happens next? I don't know, like, or, here's the long term, but is everything defined? No. Like, I mean, and adding the right people and saying you get input, and I think I'm pretty famous for saying, like, just do what you want to do. Like, if it sticks, it sticks, like adding an employee and being like, I don't know, you make it what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I could tell you how to do the job, but if I
But I'm
told
not
you how
you.
to do the job, then I would just do the job. Like, I don't want to do that. I want you to own that kind of thing. So when you look at risk versus reward, like, I don't think you can, like, calculate that in any means. I know people try to and stuff, but I think your best rewards are probably coming from your fails and then rebuilding or knowing that didn't work, and then like just adding that to your tool belt and saying, okay, like, we're gonna go do something else.
Are you quick to pivot if needed, or like have you gotten better or quicker at seeing when to pivot?
No, I'm a dedicated soul.
You usually hold on to it way longer than you maybe should.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because you want to see it work, or
Yeah, you
but-
liked your idea, right?
yeah, or the person, or
Yeah.
typically it's more. I would say I'm more of a personnel person. I'm willing to change it at any time, but
Sure.
when you add somebody to do something that's pretty hard to look at that person and know that you gave them a job, or you wanted them to succeed and they're not doing what you asked, but now you know their kids' names, their families, their financial situation,
Right.
and your empathy, like, kind of overrides your business sense sometimes in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's, maybe hanging on to people too long is kind of
Yeah.
the worst quality, but
Empathy
Some
for people and trying
empathy is
to.
a really good quality. Like,
Yeah.
like, which way are you trying to go with this thing? You trying to be a
Right.
good person, or and sometimes you got to weigh that option. But quick to pivot decisions, like, shoot, do something differently. If you come to me and you're like, this isn't working, like, tell me
let's
how it
figure
works.
it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, figure it out. Like, let's go. Like, I don't think that long term it's gonna work if it's not working now.
Yeah. If there's a hole in it, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do
And typically
that.
it's just the process, or, like, maybe the whole thing works. It's just something internally, or like the process, or it's just not being passed down to get to that finish line.
Yeah.
It's like not planning for tires when you're racing, or, gas and you didn't stop. Like,
Like, I didn't know.
yeah. Whoops. I should have got at least one.
Didn't see that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's quick to pivot, but I think you just want people to do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You hope that it kind of sees itself out before you have to step in.
Oh, yeah.
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 Absolutely.
No, you never, once you make a decision, you never want to step in again. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want that to work. Yeah.
Definitely don't want to micromanage that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has that always kind of been the way you've looked at it? Or have you kind of developed that over having employees and different times in business where you're like kind of went through moments of it, and then other moments or different employees showed you different things? Or some people need that though, right? And then some don't. Like, some are self-led, some need more.
I think as I got
Direction,
older,
or-
like, you just want more time. Like, when you're younger, you grind and can do a lot of things yourself, or pull the all-nighters and the stay up lates, and like, everything just takes time, and you're willing to put in that kind of time. And then as you grow old, you're just like, want to do that.
How
tonight.
do I get more time? Yeah.
I don't want to do that tonight. And so adding people to help you do something, or realizing that's a leverage capability, obviously, it's a challenge, because it's like, well, then how do I pay that person? But it's like, hopefully then they can handle a little bit more, and then, it's just addition, like, your foundation can handle more, and so you can go after more, because there's two of you, and one's handling an administrative thing, and you're handling the emotional side of it, or the building side of it, and this person's not thinking that, because they're more transactional, and you're more the sales and bringing it in. So
Yeah.
I think looking at that, like, just as you get older, you're just more unwilling you're looking for different avenues of leverage.
Yep. And then
when I was young, it's like, shoot, I'll stay at work all day. I don't care. Like, this is where I need to be. But also, that's paycheck dependent. That's what happens when you're working for somebody, is like, you get paid more if you stay more.
Yeah.
And then when you have to consult and your time and yourself is your only ways to make money, you figure out how to do things quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you figure out kind of a template in your...
Nobody's paying my wages. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it quicker.
How do I speed it up?
Yep.
Yeah, and then I think an interesting way to look at it is not how much can I make maybe this hour or this month or this year. Is like, how can I make my monthly income in a day, or my yearly in a month? And obviously it's not an hour by hour thing. It's either stacking multiple businesses, or revenues of income, or investments, or in different things like that. While then once you kind of have a solid base, then you're almost willing to either do zero or find the next like level type of a thing.
Yeah, it's very true. Like, that part is, you look at it, if you've hustled your whole life and you've made what you made and you have what you have, you desire maybe less, or you want more. It's a dumb saying, but it's like, once you make a first million, not that I've ever done that, like, or in that, but it's like, once you make your first million, the second million is the easiest. It's like, if you...
0 to 1's harder than 1 to 10 or something like that.
Because you've obviously know the pattern, and you know what it takes to do that.
Just like more of all those things.
It's like playing a video game and being like, okay, like, I made it to the final boss, like, but it took me 20 hours to do it now. Like, when you used to play Super Mario Brothers and you're like, stay up all night doing all that stuff.
But if you go down this tunnel and head over here.
Yeah, now you know all the shortcuts and the tunnels and all this shit, and it takes you an hour to complete the game,
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you're at when you're making money too. Like, you know what it's like to get to here, and then you know the shortcut. Like, where's the next spot?
Yeah.
Like, what tunnel do I go down, or what corner do I look into?
And then speed and efficiency to like try it, right? And be like, nope, not that one. And then you go and pivot and run, and you just get faster and faster.
Yeah.
But then you want more and more time.
Yeah, time, definitely. Yeah. And that's why you do it faster, is because you're just like, or you do it with more people.
Right.
Yeah. You're willing to be like, oh, I don't. You have to have more in quantity because you have more people doing it, but that's easier to find than it is to do, and so that's why you got to add the more people.
Yeah. And then in scaling, what's some things that you've kind of learned along the way in scaling of like needing or adding people, or when to or when not to? Like, what are your markers to saying, hey, we should hire more or not? Or is it more based on the person or opportunity, or what's that look like?
Yeah.
That's a hard one. You're still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, what is it? Like, just because you're making a lot of money, like, I mean, we install a product like Solor-wise.
Right.
And so when we get really busy, do you hold to your timelines? And if you do, then you hire more people.
Right.
Or do you extend your timelines and keep the people that you have? So it's always been the question, like, which one is it? Like, is your customer service important?
Right.
Like, go to Chick-fil-A. And
Right.
Customer service is important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting you through the line is important. They'll add 15, 20 people at lunchtime. Just
to make sure it doesn't feel any
get you
different.
to the line. Yep. It doesn't feel any different. It feels more personable. Somebody's out there speaking to you. You don't even have to speak in the speaker anymore.
Right.
So they're willing to give. Can you service more people then? Maybe, like, because you added more people and your timeline is the same. Like, hopefully, maybe, like, they do things like a little bit quicker, but but you've had to add those people. Or
Right.
do you take the reverse route and say, okay, all these people will still come. We're just going to do it with less. And now we've extended our timeline. Now the wait time is instead of 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes.
And you're willing to accept that within
Yeah.
whatever you're doing.
Like, what's your time frame of the job? Like, how long does it take to get done, and when does it take to get done? And, like, I think that'll tell you when to add somebody. Like,
Yeah.
if it's taking you a long time to return something to somebody that usually used to take you less time and you were returning quickly, but now you have more clients, it's probably time to add somebody.
Yeah. From the like fractional CFO standpoint of view, like what's some advice that you'd have for companies trying to grow or look at what they should do with their money, or when they start to do decent, how they should, split into investing into more, or, 80-20, trying new things, or diversifying or whatever, or positioning them in a great positioning them in a great position to succeed.
What's their tolerance of risk? Like, what do you want to do? I mean, do you want to grow? Some people don't want to grow. They just want to, have the 5 people in the warehouse and they want to sell $10-15 million and just be done with it, or do you want to take over the world and leverage yourself and go that way, and maybe that can or can't be a success.
Like, which one excites you, right? Like,
yeah. So usually, like, from a CFO perspective, like, that's your job. Like, or from a consultant's perspective is like, you really know that person, you know what their tolerance is, and like, where their vision, or some people just don't want to take over the world. Some people just want to provide what they want to provide. Like, it's really rough for us in our solar installation business, because it's like, where do you go? Like, what's our location? And we decided probably really quickly, say just after 2020, like, it was super, super busy. We were all over the place doing everything, and we were accepting every job and doing everything. And you're adding all these people, and then you have all these expenses, and then it's like, chill. Like,
let's look at
we
everything.
just want to be Southern Colorado experts, like, it's a different market. It's like, Denver's a different market. Springs is a different market. The way code works, or
sure,
things
getting
happen,
permits or whatever.
Yeah, but then it's interesting to see too, like, this golf simulator franchise that I'm part of, like, in the ground floor enough to be able to speak with the guys that created it and stuff, and it's like, then you get that mentality, but it's not them. Their business model changed more into the sale of the golf simulator stuff, the franchise itself, instead of being involved. Like,
right.
So now they've leveraged themselves to me. They might make more money if they just held on to the franchise and created a corporate team and started putting them in different locations.
Opening up their own,
But, essentially by selling your model, like, you've created ways to finance me as a business owner. I've given them money for some sort of licensure, and then you have royalties. So, like, now their product is the franchise, and not, specifically their customer is me and not my customers.
Yeah.
And that's where their money is. And they're probably giving a little bit more of themselves, but still maybe their day-to-days have remained the same.
Yeah, just they've changed probably what their original intent was, and now it looks a little different for them.
Yeah.
And then there you are to try it and run with it too, right?
I also think, like, when you look at growth and things like that, it's like, is this something you want to do for the next 10 years, 15 years? Like, I mean...
What is the long-term game of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, kind of like at night when you're sitting in your chair and you're watching TV and you're like, I know I should go shower, but showering also requires me to wash my hair and brush my teeth and,
The whole process.
put
right?
lotion on, or, like that process. And it's like, what time do I want to go to bed? Like, so your brain's just like, just do it now, like this is the time, and this is where you'll end up. And
Yeah.
so when you look at like future, it's like, okay, like economies come and go. Like, is it something that it's going to sustain?
Yeah, is the next
or is
4
it
years important? Is it the next 12 months important?
Yeah.
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 And I think what we've seen in working with a bunch of businesses is a lot of them may or may not understand their numbers, right? So they're like, I want to do X dollars in business. But then it's like, okay, do you know how much cost it takes you to get to another client or another sale? And then if you just do some pretty simple math, as long as it scales, lots of things can change in there. But like, are you willing to spend this to make that? And there's so many people that don't know the number or aren't sure of it, or when they look at that number, when they work it backwards, it's not quite what they maybe
Right.
thought it was going to be.
Or like you said, if you're willing to spend it right now, how long do you need it before it has to return? Like if you're going to buy the new truck, and that truck's supposed to be out making money, like how long before
It's got to make money.
Yeah, exactly. Like how long can you go? And yeah, what's your tolerance to that? Or is it like biting nails and doing this, but you're willing to take the risk, and that's a tolerance level too. Like, it may or may not make money, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't,
I mean, every business is a risk, but do you see from what you've noticed is like the bigger the risk, like I guess some people probably work harder to achieve it, but then if it's a little bit of a risk where they're still comfortable, they're maybe not as fired up to go like make sure it works type of a thing, right? Like kind of like sink or swim compared to like I might get a little wet.
Yeah.
Instead of I might drown type of a thing. Like, do you think that it's everybody's different, but good to take bigger risks to try to speed up the growth? Or is that the only time you've really seen big growth is when there's bigger risks involved?
I think when you create a business, it's an extension of yourself. So how do you see yourself? Like, I mean, sometimes you walk into a business and you're like, this isn't, I want to say unprofessional, or, it's just like, oh, you had a good idea, but you weren't willing to invest in that or like put it to it.
Put everything else into it that needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like not getting dressed in the morning, like your business is naked really, and are you willing to go out like that? So, I think it's totally self-dependent, and sometimes you see people with good ideas, and then when they go to rent that shop or they go to do the construction or something, like, they're going to do it as cheap as possible because they're unwilling to either take a risk in financing or put their own money towards it or even just their time. And it's like, well, like this is larger than I really thought it was.
It might be bigger than even me type of thing.
And now you've totally put yourself at risk, like like is your income dependent upon it? Like, or is your livelihood dependent upon it? And if it is or it isn't, like, how long does that last?
And are you okay with going to zero or
below zero or
being on the backside of
Like I said, like, are you that scared of management to get fired, or are you just not raising your hand? Even if an employee, like, you don't have to be a business owner, like, just are you willing to ask a question nobody's asking, or are you willing to say what's not being said? And if you are, like, are you willing to take the consequences or the rewards from that? And if you can raise your hand and you can speak up, dude, I've raised my hand. Like, next thing you know, you're called into the CEO's office and they're like, see ya, and you're like, crap, I shouldn't have raised my hand.
Maybe not that time.
Right? So, but then you got to climb that ladder again. Like, you got to go sell yourself to another person in another job. And, and after doing that so many times, you just realize, like, the only person you have to sell yourself is to yourself, and then everything else kind of comes with that.
Just be authentically you.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'll land where you need to land.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
So to pivot a little bit away from a bunch of business stuff, what are you doing outside of business? Like, I know you love golf, but you got a family, and like, so what are some other things that you're doing kind of day to day or finding enjoyment in, or what's some hobbies or other passions you got?
Golf.
Golf. It's just golf.
Just golf. Just golf.
Yeah.
I'm just me, myself. Like, you
Yeah.
got 6 kids running all over the place.
Chasing them and being into whatever they're into.
Yeah. Like, one of the kids is into motorcycles right now, so I've gotten all the bikes back out and, fix them all up and try to make them pretty and working
Getting
right.
ready to.
And, yeah. Wanting to invest in their hobbies, in what they're doing, either obviously through time or through, some other means. Like if you want them to be safe, right, wear a helmet or some gear and still feel that confidence.
Sure.
I think that's a big thing, like growing up, that I learned is, some things just help you feel confident. And so helping them find that middle ground of what makes them is kind of a hobby right now. And with 6 of them, it's whatever makes you you. Let's see.
You said you have a slight obsession for shoes, sneakers.
Yep.
Is it just what you like, or what are you looking for?
No, it's what I
How-
like.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not just shoes in general. Like
Yeah.
some people just want the rare ones, and then some people have a certain style.
Yeah.
I think mine's more style related. I think it's interesting the different types of golf shoes that people put out or can have. Obviously, there's a Jordan obsession of collecting some or
Right.
a few and doing that. And I think that's just my personality and nature. Like once I latch onto something, like I'm going to do it for a long time, and I'm going to do it, at a rate that somebody probably doesn't have a tolerance for.
Have you always collected different things, like even from when you were younger and stuff like that, or is that just kind of
Yeah, I think that's the baseball card mentality that you have when you're a little kid. Yep.
Yeah, I like Pokemon cards or baseball cards or
No,
whatever.
Pokemon. Not Pokemon. But more, like the baseball cards are just like whatever was there, mostly, kind of that as you were growing up. But then looking at, some people have other obsessions, but it's just,
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was like watching a thing, and they said kind of like whatever you're into when you're younger, there's like that 15-year or 20, maybe 20, 25-year cycle when it comes back to being kind of cool and relevant, and then you have money to like
to do it
kind of thing, the stuff you really want to do, but then it like doesn't seem expensive at that time. So then it's like,
well, and what used to be expensive,
relative, right?
Yeah, it's always relative, but everything's still similar cost.
But when you're 12 and you're trying to buy something, you didn't have a job or
totally,
anything, and then now you're 35 and now you can buy whatever you want or do it.
Zero, or you get the one and you're like wearing them everywhere and anywhere. Like, blessed as a kid, obviously, and like not to grow up, without things, but there was certain things that I always wanted as a kid. We have a cars obsession right now.
Like the movie, right?
Yeah, I like the movie.
Not just a car obsession, but a cars.
Not just a car obsession. Like, we don't collect cars, like we collect cars. And that's been a passion since Tegan, my oldest boy, he was, 2 or 3. So having those and kind of getting back into it with Bo, the younger one, because you think, it kind of died for a little bit, and now it's
kind of reignited.
Oh yeah, totally.
So much to the point where you wrapped your car in it to look like a Cars car. Lightning
does
McQueen,
look like Lightning McQueen. Like, and I'm sure you can cut to a shot of him.
Yeah, we'll throw it up there for sure. Yeah,
that's fun. And most of that's just, obviously is meant to be a surprise, like on his birthday and things like that. But then it kind of has grown on me to liking it.
Kind of lean into it.
I like when kids see it or you're rolling down the highway and people pull out their phones and, you know, it's just a car. Like,
like you said,
it's just stickers, really, you know, like it really is. And so it's just funny how you have changed what was a certain type of car, and now you change it into a piece of nostalgia for people who, you know, constantly, if I sit at a stoplight and I just look over, it's like big people are taking pictures.
What's going on? Oh yeah, my car.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, you know, and you know, kind of doing that. I think there's always a heart in me that likes to do those kinds of things, and see people happy because they don't see that very often, or it's unique. That's fun.
I mean, like you said, when we were with you there yesterday, I mean, there's a handful of people that cool car or smiling or taking photos by it or whatever. You're driving around an experience for people.
Right.
Like they might go home at dinner that night and be like, you wouldn't believe, let me show you this car I like saw today.
I always see people when they take out their phone and they're like, I seen Lightning McQueen, and you're probably like, their grandpa got the text and he's like,
what?
Like, but yeah, that's fun. Like, and starting to make that a thing. You know, it just happened probably about a month and a half ago, but looking at doing some events with it, and it's not a bad car to be able to wrap. It's fast. But doing some events with it, but, you know, maybe doing some kid stuff like just birthday parties, cool. Or not looking to make money from something like that, but, you know, more so something that a kid that's 4 or 5, 10, even some kids are like, you know, 15, and they're like, I love cars when I was little, and I was like, me too, and I wasn't little. I went to the third movie by myself.
But here we are, huh? Yeah.
So here we are, like, the kids didn't even go with me. I think I was traveling that day, the day that it came out. I saw it.
You're like, I gotta see it. I'm sure you only watched it once.
Yeah,
you only. That's the one and only time you watched it, probably. So, no, but yeah, I mean, we've been talking. You're like, oh yeah, the so and so car. You'll name the cars and everything. It's just you're just into it. You just know it, and it's cool. Just another micro passion of yours and stuff.
Yeah, it's part of my like the. I guess freedom that you enjoy, or the time that you have, and then also part of just who you are as a person and make up, like, you know, like you say, some people are super into skiing or boating or any other type of thing, and it's, you know, more so that fulfills a passion and then allows
makes
you
you happy, right?
Yeah.
Brings you happiness.
It's a thought in your head, like I said. People think it was an impromptu thing, like it's something that, you know, it's like, how do I get here? Like, what's the vision of that? And I don't think if you're not always thinking of your visions, like, you know, people create the vision boards or, you know, and that part of things, and maybe it's not so set, but it's always a thought. And if it's a thought, you're going to pursue it or kill it.
You find enjoyment within it, right? So every time you loop back to it, it makes you a little happy. You get that little dopamine rush of like, yeah, that'd be cool, or I like that, or
or, you know, just something to cross off and go to something else, or, you know, what's next? Like, I pursued that thought. Like, I saw the result of what it was, and I got that, like you said, a little bit of dopamine, but it's also a sense of accomplishment. Like, actually followed that through. Like, you took the risk. Absolutely. And it's like, yeah, it costs a little bit of money to be able to do that, but like, you followed it through.
Yeah, so the fulfillment of
is that your habit, or is it your habit to always kill a thought? Because I've been around people that, you know, they're like, it would be cool to do this, and you're like,
go do it.
Hell yeah! And then you give them 3 things, and that's my fault. I never shut my mouth, because when somebody says something, I'm like, let's do it. Like, or, you know, here's how you accomplish that, and then you're like, oh yeah, like, you're just not that person to be able to do that. Like, you'll kill that thought.
You like that thought, but you don't want to see that thought out.
You're probably the person that doesn't shower because you like the thought of showering, but you don't like the process of where it takes you. You know? Because if you shower, then you have to, you know, like,
it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. You still have to complete a few more tasks. It's not just about the
You might love this, but you don't love the stuff around it.
Yeah, that's what keeps people from doing what they really want to do. Like,
is the friction just outside of what they truly love? Or,
And sometimes you just have to forget all the other aspects and just start it.
The finish
and do
line's
it.
fun.
Yeah.
Although the finish line can consistently keep moving, it feels like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that you got to have
It always
those
does.
micro finish lines along the way to keep you engaged and excited to continue.
Yeah. If everything was meant to be planned out, like you'd get an instruction manual. Like,
On your 74th day of life, you'll
Yeah.
do this, and on your
on your
900th
first
day of life,
birthday, this is what you're meant to do, James. Like, you're gonna be this person. Like, that's just not how.
and you'll
it
be
is.
happy this day, and you're
Yeah.
gonna smile 74 times. And
Yep.
no, that's not how it plays out.
And you know, like I said, some things just keep people in their seat. They like their, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's not wrong with people that stay 20 years someplace, or no, obviously they had some sort of passion for it in
Yeah.
a different way than you might have had, or they looked at it as a different thing. You know, but truly there is a type of individual that loathe a whole lot of people. Sorry, but that individual that didn't have passion, that they just
Right.
did it for the security of it, you know, and I don't like that.
A lot of people
That's not
like
good.
the idea,
Yeah.
and that's like as far as it goes. Sometimes
I call them the must be nice people. You know,
Yeah.
those people that
oh yeah,
when you do something or you're doing something or you have done something and now you are reaping the reward of that, people tell you it must be nice. And you're
Absolutely.
like, do you know what I went through? Oh, it's not nice. Like, yeah, like this part is.
this part's great,
But
but
this
that-
part wasn't,
it's
you
rough.
know, like, and this part is really this part because tomorrow I got to go right back to this part. And
Yeah.
so whether that's hard work as a lineman and being, you know, blue collar mechanic or something like that, and then enjoying the rewards that you have, or if it's
paying your dues. Yeah, you didn't just win
like
the lottery
something, yeah.
and get lucky.
Yeah.
Even there, you had to pay some dues by going there
I
and buying
mean,
your
you were
ticket, and
dedicated.
investing your money to try to get it.
Guaranteed night. Not a whole lot of people that just went on the first try, and so
Right.
whatever you're doing and however you enjoy it, like I don't like the buzzkills of people that are like, "Well, that must be nice." It's like,
I mean, it
Yeah.
is, but
yeah,
at that moment,
yeah, yep, sure is,
sure
Yep.
is.
Yep, and it takes confidence to say that sometimes. Sure is, yep. But you would never do what I did.
But you wouldn't have done what I did. Yep.
Mhm.
And I think that goes back to
And I
the,
want to do some things that other people do. Like,
Yeah.
But as long as you had passion in it and it provided for where you are, and sometimes I look at people who stayed someplace 20, 30 years and they have a pension and they have retirement and they took a different path and now their life is a little bit simpler, but it's secure.
Yeah.
And that's an enjoyment for them. But
so it
they
must
took
be
that
nice in a different
passion
way.
and stayed,
Yeah.
and stayed someplace and made that place what it was. The world needs that, but
Absolutely.
you know, it's a very select group of individuals that would tell somebody like that must be nice to be retired. It's like
After working 30
you got
plus
up at
years,
5
whatever.
o'clock every morning and went and worked in the wind and the rains and all sorts of stuff. Like, you know, you can't tell them that now. Like, that's
Right.
not, that's not fun or cool or, you know, whatever. You know, you're just a jealous individual.
Yeah. No, I think mostly it's about self-awareness and doing you and not worrying about what everybody else is doing, right?
Right.
And making sure you're happy.
Yep.
Right on.
Make sure yourself's happy first. Then everybody else around you makes that choice to be happy with you or against you. Guess.
Yeah. And those around you are happy, it makes it all better. And if not, usually those will
They'll
sort
filter
themselves,
out.
filter out, and figure it out from there, right?
They'll filter out. Bye.
That's okay.
Yep.
Those are the things that happen in life. So one of the last questions is for either business owners or people in life, what would it mean to not suck? Or what would be your advice to not suck at life or business? Or
Don't tell people it must be nice. You suck if you tell people that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, because that means, like, no. To not suck at life or business, shoot, man. I think you have to suck at some point.
Yeah.
Like, to realize, like, what success is. And so, you know, I think the suckiness is how you take it. Like, is it a deal killer or is it a work through? Like I said, do you put it in your tool chest? Do you put it in your brain power to not do that again? But you know, if you deal with it as a negative, I don't think that's where you truly suck, you know, where you're unwilling to move again. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't quit and you continue to keep going until you
Yeah.
kind of find yourself on top of whatever that is, then a negative will still be a positive.
Well, quit that what you're doing, but do something else,
Right.
or, you know, whatever. So, yeah. But like I said, like, you have to suck at some things because that's what brings people like you. Like, I suck at marketing. Like, you exist because I suck at it. Like, people suck at tax mitigation. I exist because they suck at it. So, you know, if you can't do it, you find somebody that can, and you partner with them, or, you know, you collaborate,
Learn from them or talk to them.
And there's always something to be had there. But like, as long as, like you said, if you're not quitting or you're not giving up, or, you know, sometimes you have to realize what zero is and go do something else. But as long as you're willing,
as long as you go do something else, though.
Yeah, whatever that is, like, cool. Like, you know, if you owned a business as a mechanic and it failed, and you have to go work at Ford garage and make that place better, or run it as your own because maybe you suck at the financial piece, you know, but your passion is still to be a mechanic. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't think you've degraded yourself, like, by making somebody else's something better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's just self-awareness, just making sure you're kind of running your path and you're
for a whole year last year, we took our Solor staff, okay, and we did Tuesday staff meetings. And my idea of this as it progressed was not only just to update throughout the business, but for these individuals who were, I don't want to say stuck, let's just say in a job that they were in, right? Realizing the job that they were in, and then how do you then make that your career? Like, these weren't people that were, this isn't Chick-fil-A and we're dealing with 15, 16-year-olds, you know, cooking fries and stuff like that. And even if that is your profession, and like, in your, you know, at a stage in life where certain things aren't where they should be, like, how do you make that your profession? How do you make that your career? It might not be something that you wanted to do or ended up doing, but life gave you that. And so, you know, you look at like a receptionist, you look at somebody in accounting, or, you know, somebody that's in these jobs. And obviously they're in the jobs and they provide and they do certain things, but how do you make yourself like a little bit better? What do you do? Like, I mean, you didn't go to school, you didn't get a master's degree. So how do you get a master's degree in being a receptionist? Like, what's the education? Like, where's your experience lie? And is there some sort of certification for that? Is there something that you can do in the industry that you're in? Like, especially in our industry, the solar industry, like, there's plenty of things that have certifiable things to
level.
It. Right. Yeah. So, like, people who suck just look at a job as a job. Like, but
don't look for what else or what more.
Or if that's what you're gonna do, like, just do it, like, and be the best at it, and like, you know, like I said, like, put some professionalism to it, and you, I think you'll obviously find yourself better in the day-to-days. It won't be, you know, everybody has bad day-to-days, but it won't make you feel like you are stuck or that you do suck, like you are actually doing something. Yeah. Like, yeah, I think, and so we did these staff meetings, and it's like, how do you grow? How do you do certain things? And throughout all of these meetings, it was like, almost like a warning too. Like, I mean, you know, like, step up, like, be a better worker, be a better person, like, you know, because when economies hand businesses, you know, life in general, like, you know, or choices hand businesses, like, in
different opportunities, or good and bad,
like, either you're going to be a part of that, or let's say during a layoff or something like that, like, I mean, who they going to lay off first? You know, like who's first to go, or what's going to happen. And maybe it's not really a good analogy because you don't want to stay at a failing company, but in a downsizing effort, like, are you that expert that people look to? Like I can't operate without, you know,
Right.
because you are so good at your job. Or like, I mean, how do you get to the next level? How do you get to the chair? How do you get to the raise? Like, to say you've done nothing in a performance review, like in a quarter, is like,
What have you gotten better at?
yeah, what, you know,
Nothing.
but to say, hey, like, you know, like, I know, like, all I do is answer phones, but I've organized them alphabetically, and how many times
the
they've called, and
process.
here's the data, and I've done these things. Like, you've taken a simple job, but you've made it
Sure.
maybe, you know,
Better for you at least, and
at
then maybe
least,
better
yeah,
for everybody.
or you know, like something to use, like, you know, obviously that's a general analogy, but you know, you want to do something that furthers like the business, but it's
Sure.
like, you know, this is the type of call I've taken, and here's how many datas or why I've taken this call, and it's like, oh, I thought you just answer the phones, but now you're telling me like 75% of people that call in here, you know, are calling for this reason, and we're not fulfilling it. Like, now you've become, you know, somewhat of a consultant just by answering the phone. So, you know, that's what that was meant to be, is to take people that, you know, traditionally didn't go to school, or they've ended up in a job, like, you know, and it's like, don't make this your next
It's not
job.
one
Like,
dimensional here, right? Yeah.
yeah, don't make this your next job. Like, or, you know, maybe if there is some sort of certification, like, then get it while you're here, and working and doing here, and be of help here, but that might lead you to something else when this doesn't exist for you anymore, or, you know, you find other opportunities. So very rarely, sometimes people take advantage of that, but, you know, even just that position of just answering phones, like, can mean something, like, and you can make it mean something if that is what life's given you. Even cooking fries or whatever, you know, like,
Kind of like
be
the
on
don't
time,
settle
or,
for
yeah,
less type thing, right?
yeah. I mean, sure, it is, like, that's what life gave you, and now you're 50 years old, and, you know, you're still career hopping,
Right.
like, but you're obviously career hopping for a reason. So, you know, find something. You don't always have to go back to school, like, or you don't always have to.
Constant learning too. And
Yeah. Just, I mean, there's something out there in the job that you're in that you can make that your career, like your profession.
The chance of you being the absolute best of what you're currently doing,
okay.
and knowing everything about what you're currently doing is slim to none.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, but to know everything about your job, like, is, you know, 100% if you're willing to put in that effort.
Yeah. Yeah, day one of your job, you're usually a lot better after a couple of years than you were the first day. And
hopefully. Some people aren't.
not always.
Some people aren't. Some people just get worse.
Yeah. Well,
complacency.
I got a camera right there. Usually at the end of the episode, if you want to tell anybody where to reach you, or what you want them to follow, or know what you got going on in the future, you can say whatever you want to say, or give your little spiel. But
let's see. We have a couple different companies. Like, you can follow Blue Water Destinations on Facebook. You can, you know, that's some of the tax easement stuff that we do. You can follow Back 9 Pueblo West on Instagram and Facebook. In any of those places, you can message me and ask me specific questions about, you know, what you're interested in, you know, in that business, or something about that. Steel City Solar, at Steel City Solar, or, you know, www.steelcitysolar.us. You know, it's a great place to learn what's up and coming in renewable energies. I think our staff right now is doing a great job in educating people to what's happening right now, like, in people making that choice, you know, and what that choice really means when you make it. So that's kind of cool to see in that business.
that industry is a little different, right? So there's a lot of different ways you gather information or get sold or whatever. So you guys are trying to be a true, legit, like local company that people can look to for information
like I
and
said,
advice.
when we look to growth, it's like, no, we want to grow here and we want to grow the right way. If that leads somewhere else down the road, but so many specifics in this world, not in this world, in every location in regards to solar and codes and what can happen and what should happen. It's like, just be good at where you're at and what you're doing right now and that ever changing world. And I think they're doing a really, really good job right now of highlighting that, and I think it's going to be very beneficial to them, in the upcoming season.
And helping educate people on whether they should.
Yeah,
solar,
like you said, there's just so many different
Yeah.
avenues, like independence, cost, like choice. Just that's something you're passionate about. Is that world, like so many different things, but done wrong, it could cost you money. Done right, like it saves you money. And done with a passion, it's just there's no cost to a passion,
Right.
really. So yeah,
Then you're just doing what you want to do.
yeah, true.
Well, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get on and talk about other stuff here in the future, but it's been awesome, man. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.